Hello and welcome to our final day of our 7-day series from Newbie to Know How. With this last little step, there are two things I'm going to show you in today's lesson. In the last one, we kind of scrapped our first page and organized the things that we had been learning up to that point and put it all together to put a photo and maybe a frame and a couple of elements together on a page. So today, I'm going to show you how to add some simple shadows and explain why that's important, and then show you how to save your layout, both for print and to share it on the web, for example, on a blog or on Facebook. So let's just jump right in. So this layout that I put together looks kind of flat. Without any shadows, it looks very digital. Let's just be honest there. If you were to paper scrap this, there would be shadows because there would be a separation. It wouldn't all look like it was just one layer put together. And so to create that dimension, we can do that with drop shadows. So in Photoshop Elements, if you double click, we're going to highlight the photo image. And down here, we have this nice little menu and it says Effects. And under Styles, there are a bunch. And I'm just going to go to Drop Shadows. And these are the standard ones that come automatically with Photoshop and perhaps with the program that you have. Now, we're going to choose one, and I'm going to choose this one right here, and you double click it. Now, I tend to think that that's a rather drastic shadow, so I always like to change anything that's a default. So if you click on this little blue gear, it pulls up the layer style menu. The other thing is I always like the shadow to come from a different angle. So as you can see, when you move this around, it will show a different angle. And I kind of like for the light to look like it's kind of shining on here and the shadows there. But total personal opinion. So once you find where you want that shadow to be, let's see, I think I'm going to kind of go right in here. Then the next thing we're going to adjust is size. So you can go all the way up and all the way down, which is very, very dark there. And all the way up, this just looks like the photo's floating. It's too big. So I like to keep it fairly small. And then the distance, depending. So here's the thing with distance. Think about an item on your page. If you were to tape that down, if it was a physical page, how close to your paper would it be? A photo with a little bit of sticky tape is probably going to be pretty close to the page. So you're not going to have a super distinct shadow there. So, and then opacity is where we adjust and create kind of the softness with the shadow. So there we go. That's how I would shadow it. You can also double click on this and make the color gray, or click on the color and make it a little darker of the page. And sometimes there are advantages to that. I kind of like the darker gray more than a straight black. And then maybe bump up these just a little. Okay, and then you can click OK. Now, if we go back to our layer style, an easy way to transfer this to all of the layers, this is a super easy technique. And if you want to go through and adjust each one, you totally can. But if you're in a hurry and you've adjusted one and you want them all to kind of match, if you hold down your Alt or Option key and click on this little FX, because that's your layer style, and drag it up to the next, it copies it and moves it up. And look what happens as our picture begins to transform with each of these. And now, if you want to adjust it, for example, if you want a little more distance on the leaves, you just double click on the FX and it automatically brings up you don't have to go back to this panel down below. And then you can kind of make the distance a little greater. and with that maybe the opacity just a little lower, and the size, take it out a little bit so that it makes it so it looks a little farther away. See how soft and pretty that layer style is? And then click OK. And that's how you add simple shadows to your page in Photoshop Elements. Okay, now I could spend lots more time on this and lots of different things, but play around with it, get started, keep it simple, and then let it go from there. I will put in the email, I will include a couple of links to articles on my blog that give more in-depth tutorials and information about drop shadows. Okay, so the last thing is to save it. Now we want to go up to File, and we're going to do Save As. And you're going to find where you want to save it. Maybe it'll be on your desktop. And if you save it in Photoshop under this for format and name it, you know, what you want, beach layout or whatever, this will allow you wouldn't be able to print it in this format, but this would allow you to come back and make changes to it later on. And especially if you're starting out, I recommend this as a wise way to get started. It does take up a little more space, but it can be really worth it to first do it in Photoshop. Okay, so let's pretend that we clicked Save and we saved it in a folder on our desktop for our layered, so that we have all of the layers there and we can come back and edit it. Now we're going to change it to JPEG, and that's the format you want for print. And notice we didn't change anything to the size. So then we would type in, beach layout, and we would click Save. And I'm not going to save it right now, but that's what you would do. Now, after you've printed it, 1, for any future editing, 2, then for print as a JPEG in its original size, now, and only after you've done those 2 steps, now you can go up to Image, Resize, and here we're going to change the resolution to 72. That's a really good resolution to use for the web. And then you can do either 600 or 800. If you're mostly going to be posting on Facebook, I would recommend 800. Click OK. And notice it makes it a lot smaller, but that's because it compresses it down and it won't take you 10 minutes to load onto Facebook or on a blog or in a gallery or whatever. And then you're going to do File, Save for Web. And this will give you this little menu here. The biggest thing, you still want to save it as a JPEG. You can bump up quality, just kind of depending, and then you click Save. And then it will give you a place, you'll go to where you want to save it. And what I always do is I would do beach layout _ web. I always include that at the end so that when I go back to pull it up or to print, I know not to print a web layout, and I know which ones to choose when I want to upload. So those are my tips for adding some drop shadows and for saving it for print and for web. I hope that you've enjoyed this 7 days. I will explain more things that I have available if you are interested in learning more on this journey in the email. But I am so glad that you joined me, and I look forward to getting to know you and working with you and scrapping with you in the future.